Cole had always been a light sleeper, but that morning he woke up to something different, something warm pressed against his chest. A weight, soft and trembling, sat on top of him. His eyes opened slowly, and what he saw made his brain freeze in confusion. There she was, Zelra, the alien girl he had hired just 2 days ago as a housekeeper. But now she was straddling him, her knees on either side of his body, her hands planted firmly on his chest. Her silver blue skin glowed faintly in the early light. Her breathing was fast, almost like she had run for miles. Cole blinked, unsure if this was some weird dream. A Zelra? He whispered, his voice still heavy with sleep. Her eyes darted to his, wide with fear. She pressed a finger to his lips, trembling. "Don't move," she whispered, her accent soft and sharp at the same time. "They're scanning." Before he could ask what she meant, he heard it too, a low hum, like a giant bee, moved over the roof of his home. The walls vibrated slightly, and for a second, it felt like the air itself held its breath. Zelra's body tensed, her fingers dug slightly into his shirt as if to anchor herself. Cole's heart pounded, not from fear, but from not understanding. Who was they? And why was she hiding like this? He tried to stay still, but his eyes watched her closely. Her face, though beautiful, was tight with panic. Her lips moved silently, whispering something in her language. She looked nothing like the simple worker she claimed to be. Her movements were too sharp, too precise. Even in fear, she had the control of a trained soldier. The hum outside grew louder, then slowly faded. Zelra didn't move right away. She waited, frozen, for another minute, then slowly relaxed. She looked down at him and whispered, "Sorry." She rolled off him and stood up quickly, brushing her hair back behind pointed ears. Cole sat up, confused and breathless. He looked at her and said, "Okay, you need to tell me what just happened." Zelra didn't answer. She turned away, pretending to adjust the curtains. "I was just making sure no one finds me," she said quietly. "That's not an answer," Cole said, standing up too. "Are you in danger? Did someone follow you here?" She shook her head. "No one followed me, but someone is looking for you," he replied. She didn't deny it. Instead, she moved to the sink and began pouring water into a kettle. She moved like nothing happened. Cole watched her closely. Something about this wasn't right. 2 days ago, she arrived at his door. She said she needed work, said she could clean and cook. He lived alone on a small colony world, so he said yes. She was quiet, polite, and never gave him a reason to doubt her until now. Until she nearly crushed him in bed while hiding from something in the sky. He noticed something else now, a faint red mark around her wrists, old, healed scars, like shackles. She caught him staring and pulled her sleeves down quickly. "I'll finish breakfast," she said, her voice distant. Cole didn't stop her. But inside, his mind raced. He wasn't stupid. He had seen things during his time in the outer colonies, runaways, slaves, rebels, soldiers hiding in plain sight. Zelra wasn't just a housekeeper. She was something else, something dangerous. Or hunted, maybe both, and yet, he didn't feel afraid. He should have instead. He felt responsible, as if she had just pulled him into her secret, and now it was his too. Later that morning, while she cleaned the back storage room, Cole quietly searched her small bag. He didn't want to invade her privacy, but he had to know. Inside, he found something strange. A compact communication device, sleek and military grade. Definitely not something a poor worker would own. It was locked, but the frequency lights blinked slowly, encrypted. He placed it back quickly before she returned, but the questions in his head only grew louder. Who was she? Why did she run? And why did she pick his home to hide in? Outside, the sun rose high, but in Cole's home, shadows were growing. And he knew his life was about to change forever. That evening, Cole couldn't focus. His hands worked, fixing broken solar panels on the roof, but his mind stayed inside, where the alien girl moved quietly, sweeping the floors like nothing had happened. But something had happened. She had straddled him in panic, whispered about scans, and then acted like it was just a bad dream. Zelra had a way of being invisible even when standing right in front of him. She moved with grace, never made noise, and spoke only when spoken to. But now, every glance, every step, every small movement felt calculated, like someone trained to hide in plain sight. Cole caught her reflection in the glass window as he climbed down the ladder. She stood still in the kitchen, staring at a pot of boiling water, but her eyes weren't focused on the pot. They stared at nothing. Her lips moved slightly, whispering in a language he didn't recognize. He watched her closely. It wasn't just sadness in her expression, it was fear. A quiet, heavy fear that clung to her like a second skin. And in that moment, he realized something. She wasn't running from a mistake, she was running from a life. Later that night, as the two of them sat in silence, eating dinner, Cole asked gently, "Zelra, are you being hunted?" She froze, her spoon halfway to her mouth. "I don't know what you mean," she replied without looking up. "I saw the scars," Cole said calmly, "on your wrists." Her hand trembled slightly, but she said nothing. "I found the device too," he added. "You can trust me, but I need the truth." Zelra finally looked up. Her eyes silver with a hint of violet locked with his, and in that moment he saw it, not just fear, but something deeper, pain. She stared for a long second, then sighed and placed her spoon down. "I was not always a servant," she whispered. Cole leaned in, listening. "I was born into a noble family on the planet Thrail," she continued. "My blood was considered blessed, but my thoughts were not." She looked away, ashamed. "I refused to follow the house laws. I questioned the elders. I didn't want to marry who they chose." Cole listened silently. "They marked me as defiant," she said. "So they stripped me of my name and gave me a new one, Slave 127B. She rolled up her sleeves and showed him the glowing mark on her forearm. A brand, barely visible, but still alive with dull red light. "It is a tracker," she said, "but I blocked it using an old frequency pulse. It won't last forever." Cole clenched his jaw. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. She wasn't a criminal. She was a prisoner of tradition. "I ran," Zelra said softly. "I escaped the cargo ship during the stop, and I've been hiding ever since." She looked down, her voice cracking slightly. "I didn't plan to stay here, Cole, but when I saw your eyes, you looked like someone who wouldn't hurt me." He sat back, taking it all in. A noble girl turned slave, now sitting in his kitchen, afraid to even breathe too loud. It was insane, but it made sense. The silence, the way she froze at loud sounds, the way she cleaned everything twice, as if her life depended on it. "You said they scanned for you?" Cole asked. She nodded. "They use sky drones, masked as survey ships, but they scan for brand signals and stolen DNA. How long before they find you here?" She shrugged. "Days, maybe weeks, unless someone reports me." Her eyes searched his face. "Will you report me?" she asked softly. Cole didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked to the door. He looked out at the stars above, his mind racing. He had every reason to stay out of it. She brought danger to his quiet life. But when he remembered the way she held him in the morning, not with desire, but with desperation, he knew. He couldn't turn his back on her. "No," he said finally, turning back to her. "I won't report you." Zelra let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "Thank you," she whispered, but Cole didn't smile. He knew what this meant. From now on, he wasn't just her employer. He was her shield, and somewhere, someone was already looking for her. And when they came, he would have to decide run, hide, or fight. But tonight, they sat quietly under the soft yellow lights, two strangers, tied together by secrets neither of them asked for. It began with a distant sound in the clouds, not thunder, not wind, but something colder, heavier, mechanical. Cole stepped outside, wiping his hands on a towel. The sky above shimmered like hot metal, and then a light blinked through the haze. A Sleek silver ship cut through the air like a silent knife. It hovered briefly, engines pulsing low, then descended slowly toward the hills near his home. Cole narrowed his eyes. He didn't recognize the ship's markings. It wasn't a cargo hauler or colony shuttle. This one was royal, polished, precise, dangerous. Inside the house, Zelra dropped the dish she was washing. Her eyes widened, and she backed away from the window without a word. "No," she whispered. "They found me." Cole turned just as she bolted past him, heading toward the back room. "Zelra, wait," he started, but she was already gone. The ship landed. Silently, moments later, a soft knock echoed on the door. 3 knocks measured. Not rushed, Cole opened it slowly, his heart pounding. Standing there was a tall alien man, dressed in deep crimson robes with gold lining. His eyes were sharp, his posture perfect. Behind him stood 2 guards, not soldiers, but enforcers. They wore white masks and held sleek staff weapons with glowing tips. "Good day, settler," the nobleman spoke, his voice deep and rehearsed. "I apologize for arriving unannounced." Cole nodded slowly. "You're far from any city." The noble smiled. "I'm searching for a fugitive, a dangerous one, who may be hiding in this area." Cole's jaw tensed. "I live alone." The noble tilted his head slightly, as if reading his heartbeat. "No assistants? No visitors?" Cole shook his head. "Just me and the crops." The noble glanced past him into the home. Even from the door, he could see the spotless interior. The polished floor, the arranged dishes, too clean for a single man. "May I step inside?" The noble asked, voice still friendly but firm. Cole didn't move. "Unless you have a search order, you're not welcome here." There was a pause. The guards shifted slightly, as if waiting for a silent command, but the noble man raised a hand, stopping them. "Very well," he said, smiling again. "Forgive the intrusion." He reached into his robe and pulled out a small holodisc. With a flick, it projected an image into the air. It was Zelra, but not as she looked now. Her hair was shorter, her face younger, thinner. She wore torn servant clothes and had bruises on her arms. Under the image, the words glowed. "Wanted. Property theft, escape, disobedience. Have you seen this girl?" The noble asked. Cole looked at the image for only a second before replying. "No," he said clearly. "Never seen her before." The noble man studied him, then flicked the disc off. "If she comes to you," he said softly, "please remember she is not what she appears to be," without waiting for a reply. The man turned, his guards following. They stepped back into their ship, and within seconds, the craft lifted into the sky. Cole closed the door and locked it. Behind him, in the shadows of the storage closet, Zelra sat curled on the floor, her arms around her knees. Her eyes glistened in the dark. "He's the one who bought me," she whispered. "He kept me." In a glass room like a pet, Cole crouched beside her. "I told him I hadn't seen you," he said quietly. Zelra looked at him in disbelief. "You lied for me." "I told the truth I chose," he said simply. Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. "I don't deserve this," she murmured. "You could lose everything, your farm, your freedom." Cole looked at her and said, "Let them try. I've fought worse things than pretty nobles in robes." They sat in silence. The sky outside grew darker, but inside, something lit up between them. Not love, not yet, but something like trust. A fragile bond born in hiding, in lies told to protect another. But far above, in the orbiting ship, the noble man tapped a hidden button on his disk. A soft beep confirmed it. A faint heat signature, buried deep beneath the wooden home, shielded by layers of stone and wiring. But it was there. "She's here," he said to no one. "She still glows." And so the hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The storm broke that night. Not in the sky, but in her heart. Zelra stood by the fire, arms wrapped tightly around herself, staring into the flames. She hadn't moved since the noble left, hadn't said a word. Cole watched from the table. Trying to read her silence, it wasn't just fear anymore, it was guilt. "I wasn't just a servant," she said suddenly, her voice quiet but sharp like broken glass. Cole sat up straighter. Zelra didn't look at him. "Just spoke to the flames. I was trained to be a bride," she said. "Not for love, not for choice, but for politics." She stepped closer to the fire, the light painting her face in gold and shadow. "My family made a deal. They promised me to House Drakthur, the same man who came today." Cole's hands curled slowly. "I was 16 when they dressed me in silks and told me to smile." She continued, "But on my wedding night I locked the door, broke a window, and ran barefoot into the dark." Her voice cracked. "They branded me that night, not just for escape, but for disobedience, the worst sin in their eyes." Cole stood and stepped closer, but she raised a hand. "I need to tell it all," she whispered. "Because I don't want you to protect a lie." She turned and looked at him fully. Her eyes weren't silver tonight, they were steel. "I didn't just escape," she said. "I stole something from them." Cole froze. "What?" he asked quietly. Zelra reached into her sleeve and pulled out a tiny crystal wrapped in cloth. It pulsed gently in her palm. "This is a soul core," she said. "A memory stone, storing knowledge, codes, family secrets." Cole stepped closer, staring at it. "Why would you take that?" "Because it's mine," she replied. "It holds my mother's voice, her memories, her truth proof that I am not a criminal, but the rightful heir to my house." Cole's breath caught. "You're not just a noble," he whispered. "You're a princess." Zelra flinched. "I was," she said, "but now I'm just property to them, a possession that dared to have a mind." For a long time the room was silent except for the crackling fire. Then Cole said, "So what do they really want?" She looked up, her voice almost a whisper. "They want the core. And then they want me gone, erased, vanished from every record." Cole stared at the crystal. It glowed with a soft heartbeat, like it was alive. "You could use this to clear your name," he said. "If I survive long enough," she answered. "If I find someone who will help me stand before the council." Cole stepped closer. "You found someone," he said. Zelra looked at him in shock. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You don't even know me," he nodded slowly. "But I know what it's like to be thrown away," he said. "I was once a soldier left behind when the war ended. Forgotten, tossed out like scrap." Zelra's lips parted slightly. "I know what it means when someone sees your worth," he said gently. "So I'll help you, not because you're royal, but because you're real." She stared at him, blinking back tears she didn't want to shed. No one had ever said that to her. Not her family, not her masters, not even herself. Suddenly, a sharp noise crackled from the wall static, then a faint voice. Cole turned to the old cum on the wall. It was picking up something. "Incoming scan sweep north sector, all dwellings flagged," the message said. Zelra's head shot up. "They're coming again," she whispered. Cole moved fast, locking windows, shutting blinds, but she grabbed his arm. "No use hiding this time," she said. "We must run." "Run where?" "To the hills," she said. "There's an old ship buried there. It belonged to my mother's guard. It might still respond to me." Cole looked into her eyes. They burned now not with fear, but with purpose. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was ready to fight back. "Then let's go," he said, grabbing a bag and pulling her toward the back door. Zelra turned once to look at the fire, then at the home she had cleaned. "Cooked in, hidden in," she whispered. "Thank you," and stepped into the night. Above them, in the cold sky, the noble ship was circling again. But this time, the prey was no longer weak. She remembered who she was, and soon the galaxy would too. The night was too quiet. Cole knew that kind of silence, the heavy kind before something breaks. He stood near the barn, watching the horizon, while Zelra packed what little they could carry. The stars were hidden tonight, swallowed by drifting clouds like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Zelra stepped outside, holding the soul core close to her chest. "It's time," she whispered. But before Cole could answer, he heard it, a low hum, rising fast from the west. Then came the lights. 3 black ships flew low over the fields. Their engines silent but deadly, they moved like shadows with teeth. Cole's heart dropped. "They're here," he said, grabbing her hand. "Go now." The first explosion hit the far silo. The blast lit up the sky, fire raining down like red snow. Zelra covered her ears, but her eyes stayed sharp. "They're not just here to take me," she said. "They want to erase everything, even you." Cole ran to the shed and unlocked a chest buried under crates. Inside were old war tools, drones, a plasma net launcher, an EMP mine he swore he'd never use again. He tossed Zelra a stun baton. "Can you fight?" She snapped it open, her movements flawless. "I was trained to serve at royal courts," she said. "But my brothers taught me to break bones quietly." Together, they ran behind the barn, just as a small squad dropped from one of the ships. The soldiers moved fast, white armor, no faces, no mercy. "House Drakthura's personal guard," Zelra said coldly. "They don't take prisoners." Cole activated the drones. 4 machines buzzed to life and zipped into the air, firing. Light pulses toward the enemy. Zelra moved like wind, fast, silent, deadly. She struck 2 soldiers before they even saw her coming. Cole dropped one with the plasma net, electricity crackling around the armored figure. But there were more, too many. One guard fired a bolt that grazed Cole's shoulder, making him stumble. Zelra screamed his name and ran to him, shielding him with her body. Another blast struck the ground beside them, flinging both into the dirt. The soul core rolled from her hand, glowing bright. One of the guards spotted it and rushed forward. Zelra tried to stand, but her leg gave out. Cole, bleeding and shaking, lifted his last weapon, the EMP mine. He threw it straight at the guard's feet. The mine pulsed once, then exploded with a burst of blue light. Every electronic nearby sparked and died. The ships above staggered in the air, their engines whining. The guards froze, weapons useless. Zelra crawled to the soul core and pulled it close. Cole dragged himself beside her, both panting, surrounded by sparks and broken machines. The field was burning now. His home, his quiet life was in flames. Zelra looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You did all this for me?" He nodded slowly, smiling through the pain. "You're not just a guest anymore," he whispered. "You're worth fighting for." She pressed her forehead to his, her voice shaking. "I've never had anyone say that," she said. "Not even my family." Behind them, one of the ships groaned and began to fall. Crashing into the outer trees, Cole looked up, still breathing hard. "We need to go before reinforcements come." Zelra helped him up, her arm around his waist. They limped toward the hills, the fire lighting their path. Behind them, the guards lay scattered. The house was gone. But something greater had awakened in its place. As they climbed the ridge, Cole looked back one last time. Smoke rose into the sky, carrying with it the last pieces of his old life. He didn't feel regret. He felt something else, purpose, at the top of the hill. Zelra turned and held out the soul core. "We survived," she said. Cole touched the crystal gently. "And we're not done yet." The hills above Cole's farm were dry and jagged. Wind howled between the rocks, carrying smoke from the burning fields below. Zelra helped Cole climb higher, his arms slung over her shoulder. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. They both knew there was only one place left to run. The old wreck buried beneath Ridge 7, forgotten by time. Remembered only in whispers. Zelra had spoken of it once. A ship her mother's royal guard had hidden during the last purge. A legend Cole had dismissed, but now it was their last hope. They reached the crest of the ridge just as night fell completely. Below them, nestled in a shallow valley of stone, was a half-buried shadow. Only the tip of a metal wing showed beneath layers of dust and dry grass. "There," Zelra said, her voice quiet but certain. Cole squinted. "That doesn't look like a ship." "It's been sleeping for a long time," she replied. "Like me." Together, they slid down the rocky slope, dust rising around their feet. Cole's injury slowed him, but Zelra never let go. She moved like a daughter returning home, each step guided by memory older than fear. When they reached the wreck, Zelra placed her hand on a piece of exposed metal. Nothing happened. She closed. Her eyes whispered something in her old tongue then. The metal pulsed faint blue light running across its surface like veins awakening. Cole stepped back, startled. The ground shook gently, and the dirt around the wreck began to slide away. Panels opened, revealing smooth hull pieces underneath. A faint sound like breath escaped from the ship. "It's alive," Cole whispered. Zelra nodded. "It remembers its master." They crawled through a narrow opening, emerging into a chamber filled with dim starlight. It wasn't like modern ships, no flashing screens or noisy engines. This ship was ancient, quiet, elegant. Its walls were made of dark stone-like metal that pulsed gently under their feet. Zelra stepped forward, touching a pedestal in the center of the room. A soft hum filled the air, and lights danced across the walls. The ship reacted to her present systems slowly warming up. "This was my mother's ship," she said. "She used it to escape before she was captured." Cole looked around. "Can it fly?" Zelra touched her forehead to the pedestal. "If it still remembers the stars." "Yes." Cole found a seat and collapsed into it, groaning as his shoulder throbbed. Zelra turned to him, gently pulling his jacket aside to examine the wound. "You're lucky," she said. "The burn missed the bone. You say that like—" "It's good news," he replied with a weak laugh. She cleaned the wound with a cloth soaked in clean water from the ship's purifier. As she worked, Cole studied her face, focused, calm, but not cold. She had changed, not just into a fighter, but into something stronger, something whole. "You've done this before," he said softly. She nodded. "For others, not for myself," he smiled. "You're terrible at running, but you're pretty good at saving people." Her lips twitched at the corner, almost a smile. "I don't want to run anymore," she said. "I want to choose where I go." She finished wrapping his arm and sat beside him, outside. The wind screamed louder, inside. The ship hummed gently, waking up from a long slumber. Suddenly, a voice filled the chamber, old and soft, female, speaking in Zelra's native tongue. Zelra's eyes widened. "My mother's voice," she whispered. "The ship still holds her," the voice repeated in old royal command. Unlocking more systems. Panels rose from the floor, showing star charts and old escape routes. One route blinked, highlighted in green. "Sanctuary," Zelra said, reading. "The label, it's still open." Cole stood slowly, looking at the map. "Then that's where we're going," he said. Zelra looked at him with wide eyes. "Are you sure?" He met her gaze without flinching. "You saved me from a quiet life of nothing," he said. "Now I save you from a loud life of being hunted." They shared a small smile. No grand kiss, no dramatic music. Just understanding. Zelra turned back to the ship's console, her hands glowing slightly as she activated the launch sequence. Engines deep below rumbled to life. Outside, dirt and rocks slid away as the ship prepared to rise. They didn't know what waited beyond the clouds, but they knew what they were leaving behind: fire, chains, fear, silence, and what they were. Taking with them hope, truth, and something unspoken. As the ship lifted into the sky, Zelra whispered, "Mother, guide me." And far above, among the stars, destiny began to stir. The stars outside the window looked like fireflies trapped in crystal. Cole stood quietly beside the pilot's chair as Zelra guided the ancient ship through silent space. No more smoke, no more burning fields, just endless dark stitched with stars, but his heart felt heavy. He had left everything behind: his farm, his tools, even his peace, yet somehow he wasn't empty. He was more alive now than ever before. Zelra didn't speak much. Her eyes stayed focused on the console, but her hands trembled slightly as she flew. She had been strong through everything, hiding, fighting, running. But now in the quiet, her guard began to fall. Cole stepped closer, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" He asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "I never thought I'd make it off that planet." The ship hummed gently, warm like an old lullaby. It felt alive, not just because of the tech, but because of her. Zelra had awakened. Something ancient, and now it carried both of them toward an unknown future. Suddenly, a light blinked on the console. A soft chime echoed through the cabin. "Approaching sanctuary gate," the ship's voice said. Still using Zelra's mother's tone, Zelra closed her eyes as tears slid down her cheeks. "I wish she could see this," she said. "I wish she knew I survived." Cole reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. "She'd be proud of you," he said. "You didn't just survive, Zelra, you broke their chains." The ship slowed, passing through a shimmering field of light like sailing into a dream. Ahead, a small planet came into view, surrounded by golden rings and glowing energy beacons. "Sanctuary," Zelra whispered. "A place where the houses have no power." She looked at Cole, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Not fear, not sorrow, but peace. "You can start over here," he said gently. But her grip on his hand tightened. "I didn't bring you here just to leave," she whispered. Cole tilted his head, confused. "What do you mean?" She turned toward him, both hands now holding his. "I could have run to this place alone weeks ago," she said. "But I didn't." He blinked slowly. "Why not?" She smiled, but it wasn't her usual guarded smile. It was soft, warm, human. "Because for the first time," she said, "I found someone who didn't see me as a problem to hide, a threat to control, or a slave to command." She took a shaky breath. "I stayed because when I looked at you, I saw freedom, not in the stars, but in your eyes." Cole's throat tightened. All this time he thought she needed protection, but maybe she just needed connection. "You stayed." "For me?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. "I didn't want to just survive anymore," she said. "I wanted to live. With someone who saw me." For a moment, time paused. The stars stopped spinning. The engines hushed. The air itself listened. Cole touched her face gently, wiping away a tear with his thumb. "You could have flown to 100 planets," he said, "but you landed in my life." Zelra leaned forward, forehead resting against his. No words, no promises, just the quiet breath of two souls meeting in the middle of nowhere. Outside, the ship began descent. Below them, the sanctuary opened green fields, silver domes, and glowing lakes untouched by war. Their past was burning behind them, but the future, the real one, waited here. As the ship touched down, Zelra whispered, "I never wanted gifts, status, or thrones." Cole looked at her. "Then what did you want?" She smiled, eyes shining with truth. "A human heart that beats for mine," she said. "And I found it." And in that moment, Cole couldn't speak, because her reason left him speechless.